domestic abuse is like home domestic abuse. It's got a lot of types. It's like verbal abuse, emotional abuse, financial abuse, physical abuse. So all these common one. So we need to get more, as she said, more information and more educated to the groups, to the women's group, to the ethnic minorities group, to know where you can go when we had one of this type of this abuse. Especially the woman came here to UK as a spouse visa or as for work or study. They don't know the whole system here in UK. They don't know how they can where to go when we had any of these issues.
Financial abuse is when someone is prevented from using their financial resources or even acquiring some financial resources. And when I mean acquiring, it might be something very simple as being able to look for a job, being allowed to look for a job. Okay, and financial abuse may take many forms, but the most common we find is usually being their wages being controlled, or not being able to access benefits, or not being able to have their own bank account, being prevented from seeking work, things like that. The most common usually is when the abusers prevent the victims from acquiring basic needs. I can remember a few examples we have been dealing lately. This is simple things like being able to buy your own period pads, for example, top up your phone to be able to have contact with your family and with other people and friends, to more extreme things like preventing you from buying food, and not allowing you to go out and be able to look for your own resources, like finding a job. And we also been finding, and this is a really issue at the moment, is when women are trapped in mortgage commitments, because there's really no escape from that. And the other thing is that because they can't access safe accommodation when they are in mortgages, because they're not considered as homeless, it just really prevents women from escaping abuse.
If you were to go out to the city centre, or you wanted money from your husband for some sort of reason, but he didn't provide that because he doesn't think, you should get it, you should go out, or you should, he doesn't think it's important. I think we also need to remember that this is a form of abuse.
Yeah, especially for women came here with like a spouse visa. So it's her husband working. So he give her like some money, but it's not enough for her to do anything. So he will take the decision about anything in her life in UK here.
And there's also other issues. For example, if you are a migrant woman with your immigration status linked to your husband, it does mean that you are financially dependent on him, because that's what the law requires. So you are completely dependent on this person to provide financial resources to you. When you live in a multicultural society like the UK and the melting pot of cultures, there are very different practices within the communities that hinder their financial independence. For example, when you have communities where gender roles are more traditional, or very crystallized ideas of what is a woman and what is a man, you also have a culture that allows this perpetuation of the financial control, because the male is seen as the breadwinner and the woman is seen, as a natural function, as a mother and a housewife. And even when they manage to find those some jobs outside the house, you see that they're usually an extension of what they already do at home, like childcare activities, domestic worker, carers, for example. So they're really not recognized as valuable jobs. Actually, they're very low-paid jobs, because they're seen as an extension of what already is the role of the woman and what they should be doing at home.
if there is a really understanding of problems, sometimes could be triggered by the financial impacts on women, because then the self-esteem is low, the social connections is cut slowly, as if you don't have money, you don't go to see your friends, you don't invite them in, no one will know what's happening with you. So normally people cage themselves in that sort of the one person managing them, and then they suffer.
If you don't have the financial independence, you can't make the decisions.
No, if you can suffering to get like your basic needs, that will affect anyone. Psychology, maybe some go into the physically effect. Some people go to the emotionally. Everything it can affect everyone, and affecting all this abuse. We have some examples of women, you know, scared of their husbands, and
They rely on their husband,
yeah.
So no recourse to public funds means that when you come to this country, you won't be able to access things like the welfare benefits, so you can't have access to that system of support. You won't be able to access housing benefits either, or apply for social housing, for example. And also you can't access health services freely. So there is actually a surcharge that needs to be paid when you live in the country with the no recourse rule. So it does place women in a very difficult position if they come to the country with that condition placed on their visas. What we have been seeing is the main barrier is obviously access to housing. And when I say housing, it can be safe accommodation, because the no recourse rule means they don't have the right to access a refuge or any type of safe accommodation, even temporary accommodation from the local authorities. So that's a big barrier, because, you know, if you think that majority of the women will have children, you are potentially thinking that you're going to be homeless. And then there are the things like, for example, not being able to speak the language, you don't know where to go, you don't know what help is available for you. And also because, you know, for many years, there's this, the perpetrator, majority of the times, has put this idea in your head that you're going to be reported to social services, you're going to lose your children, and ultimately, if you report it to the police will liaise with the Home Office and you're going to be deported. So women, and because they don't understand the UK system for support, because it is a bit complex if you're not used to this environment, it does really prevent them from seeking help or even knowing that help is available. The biggest fear is the fear of involving agencies, because again, they don't really understand the support system, and when they hear the word social services or police, and we need to understand that these women's experiences with the police outside this country may not particularly be very positive, because police works in very different ways across the world. So it is that fear that also has been instilled in them, that they're going to remove your children, you're going to be deported, you're going to be sent back to your country. But one of the other barriers really may be the communities and the families as well. There is a pressure to keep the marriage working, because in many communities a marriage is not between a man and a woman, it's a marriage between families, and breaking that unity has costs. And you know, there is the reason why we have legislation against honor-based abuse and against forced marriage, because they are realities as well in this whole situation. So there is this compliance, if you want, with the community and families' willingness to keep the abuse going on in order to keep the marriage.
So we need to get out from this one by finding the right information, by seeking the help or support from the organization, by talking to people. yeah, we need to take that out from ourselves first, and then like talk to people. This is the only way we can get out from this. If you talk to someone, relative or someone professional or GPs or whatever who is, you need to talk to get that out. This is, I think, the door to find the exit.
If they have the financial freedom, or if they have the access to finance, they can decide, especially particularly in, say, in the UK, they can move on with their lives, they can try things, they can, but the financial restriction kept a lot of people within that boundaries, and they can't progress.
And I think we just have to remember, even if you don't have a personal financial story or domestic abuse within your family, speaking up about it, or allowing others to feel comfortable to speak about it is something that we can do as a community. And it will get more people to talk out and feel that they can speak about their issues at home.
Yeah, I think we need to break this barrier, of not saying, not asking, not try to find out more information, or to talk to your neighbors, friends, or anyone you know, to make the situation better, even to support you verbally, to try to help you, get in touch with organization or any people who can help. I think we need to speak out.
And I've seen people get to that point to talk about their issues now in our groups, in Facebook groups, in WhatsApp group. I've seen a lot of women, they suffering from this financial or domestic abuse or other any abuse. They now start to talk about their issue. They start now to, because the social media gives them motivation to talk about their issue.
There is some provision on the immigration rules for spousal visas. So there is the discretionary domestic violence concession from the Home Office where you can access benefits for 3 months. And it doesn't seem a lot, but does allow you to access temporary accommodation and a solicitor to take care of your immigration status, so you can remain in the country in your own right. But again, that is only for spousal visas, and the immigration rules in the UK allow for a diversity of visas, either working visas, family route visas, student visas. All of those visas are completely outside this provision, and people in these visas won't have any resources available to them to escape abuse. There is also the Section 17 under the Care Act guidance that these families should be categorised by social services under Section 17 as destitute families. I don't think that all social services are aware of how to deal with Section 17 assessments, depending on where you are located and how many migrant families you actually come across in your work. So the provision there is very, very low. I think the majority of the responses will come from the community and the voluntary sector that, have been putting resources in place, have been putting meaningful support in place to support these women with exploring safe accommodation outside the remit of the social housing or temporary accommodation, or even, being able to fund small grants for subsistence money for these families. Seeking help is hard, but there is help available. It may not be perfect, it may be a hard route that we need to take on, but help will be there if you seek for it. So I would insist that everyone that is experiencing abuse do reach out for services, because my experience actually working in the third sector is that agencies and the voluntary sector will work tirelessly to try to resolve the situation.
Thank you for sharing your voices. I think that's the most important thing. If people don't really speak out, things are not going to change for women, aren't they? Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
bum bum. Ba-da bum bum. Ba-da bum bum bum.